Welcome to FoodKast. I'm your host, Rick, and today we have Derek
Marsden.
Derek Marsden, sorry. Derek, tell us a little bit about your career, how you got where you are now.
So I started at the age of 14 as a kitchen porter. I suppose an awful lot of chefs, that's how they start.
Yeah.
My uncle was the head chef of Kylie's in Donnybrook. Used to be a pub there. There's a restaurant, Italian restaurant upstairs called La Finesse. And yeah, summer job, and started as a kitchen porter and just fell in love with it. Loved the dynamic, loved the kitchen, loved the whole environment. Obviously at that age as well, it's the first time you get a little bit of freedom in your life.
Yeah.
You're earning some money, you're away from your parents, you know. And the kitchen at the time, I think there was 15 chefs in the kitchen.
15 chefs?
Yeah, it was a big operation. So there was breakfast, lunch and dinner. There was a carvery downstairs. There was bar food. There was a fine dining Italian restaurant upstairs. So there's a lot going on in the whole complex. Really, really busy spot. Just in the middle of Donnybrook there. It's gone now. It's been demolished now. It's been turned into a block of apartments. But yeah, I started there as a kitchen porter. And my mother's also a chef as well. So started there as a kitchen porter, and just like I said, just fell in love. Started then helping out, kind of doing the stock in the fridge. There was a couple of, there was 3 walk-in fridges, and they were just, because it's such a high volume place.
Yeah.
On a Saturday morning then I'd clear the fridge out, and then eventually they needed a hand on the carvery downstairs, so put the chef's jacket on and the apron on and was down serving on the carvery. And then kind of just slowly kind of developed with that into after the carvery would finish, I'd back upstairs, do some prep and work on the veg section that night in the restaurant. And yeah, just absolutely loved it. And I was always so interested in how to kind of enhance something. Like, so my first kind of job ever, I was in charge of the salads that used to go on the carvery. So the carvery was self-serve salads on one side and half of it on the other. And the salads were kind of just basic standard bowls of coleslaw and potato salad. But I wanted to kind of say, well, how do we make this a little bit better? And what do we do next? And, you know, and when I started, obviously now just looking back and talking about it now, like I didn't realize at the time, obviously, but I was asking all the other chefs there, how do I make this coleslaw better? How do I make this potato salad better? And obviously a wealth of experience in that kitchen as well. There were like some fantastic chefs, and they were like, well, why don't you use a little bit of apple cider vinegar in the coleslaw? Or why don't you, make a mustard dressing for the potato salad? And then it was kind of garnishing them up, like, and because initially it would just be the bowl of salad there, but then there was like chop some chives up, or chop some spring onion up, or break down a pomegranate, or segments of orange, or all those little things. Just I was always kind of doing like, how to make this better. And then eventually we're kind of working more in the restaurant upstairs. I was on the veg section. Everybody that came in, it was like an old kind of classic style restaurant. Like, so you ordered your main course, or you started your main dessert, but everybody was served veg and potato on the side. So it was 1 potato and 3 veg, everybody got. And again, the same thing, I was like, well, it was just boiled carrots and broccoli and cauliflower, and I was like, how do I make this a bit better? Like, so the lads be showing me to make an orange sauce for the carrots and making a cheese sauce for the cauliflower. And I was always mad for that next kind of how to make this better. Like,
and then would you say like your passion for food came like because of your family, or where that started?
It was a combination of things, I suppose. Like, I'm just naturally curious in that regard of trying to like I say, try to enhance something, kind of like, and I think as I got a little bit of knowledge, then I was like, well, I can do this, and then I can actually do this, and and I'm constantly saying this to guys in my own kitchens now, like, technique is so much more important than just knowing a recipe, because if you have the technique, you can make 1,000 recipes. If you know how to make a bechamel sauce, you can make 1,000 different sauces. If you know how to multiply, you know how to make a mayonnaise, all these different things. So I kind of had that, and as I realized then how quite simple cooking is, that you can kind of really enhance something and really kind of lift it up, and it's not just boiled carrots now, it's carrots with like a sherry and orange sauce or something, that you kind of really just enhances things and kind of changes things. And I kind of just fell in love with food then, and I fell in love with just the whole environment. I love it. Like, I've been doing this now, like I say, since I'm 14, and I'm 37 now, and I've never once been like, I want to get out of this industry, or I'm sick of it, I'm tired of it. I love it, I absolutely love it, like, and can't see it change anytime soon.
What for all those kind of food did you work with, and what is comfort food for you nowadays?
Comfort food for me, I suppose, would be a roast dinner. I love a roast dinner. It's always been, most of my career, I've always had Sundays off, and now, like, I hate working Sundays, and
I know the feeling. Yeah,
very rarely work Sundays now. It's only if there's a big game on or something that kind of like that. But as a general rule, I don't work Sundays, so like it's at home, it's with the family. Take a couple of hours to make it. you know, we might have some cheese or might have something as a little kind of starter at like 1 o'clock, and then have our roast at kind of 2 or 3 o'clock. But we do it properly. Like roast chicken is like a favorite of mine. Also, my wife makes a beautiful lasagna, and that's just another simple cooked, like really, really good. She makes everything fresh. She doesn't make the pasta, but she makes everything else fresh. And it's just simple, but I love it. You know, it's just one of those things that, like, when she makes lasagna, I won't eat in work. I'll go home and I'll have that. You know, and I just really look forward to it. Like, and it just gives me such massive just relaxation from it. And same thing, I love cooking a Sunday roast. I love spending a couple of hours on a Sunday in the oven. You know, especially during the winter months, we might do something more like a slow roast dish.
Oh, yeah.
And just bang it in the oven for a couple of hours and being able to get out and go for a little walk or something, or, you know, whatever we're doing, and then come back and dinner's ready, and it's just fantastic. Like,
and what kind of cuisine? What's your favorite cuisine?
I kind of eat. I love to try everything. I love to try different things, but I suppose my favorite would probably be Asian.
Asian,
as a general rule, yeah.
Like a general Asian, or more like the East or West Asian?
I just love it all. Like, you know, I mean, I kind of a couple of years ago, I just developed a bit of interest in it, and started kind of doing some kind of Korean dishes at home and at work. When I was in Brickyard as the head chef there, we started doing like Korean chicken and waffles. This is 4 or 5 years ago. Like, it's everywhere now. You see it everywhere now, but this was a couple of years ago. And just make our own gochujang sauce from it, like make our own waffles, like just kind of, again, just try to always enhance the kind of thing. But like, I love that flavor profile. I love dumplings. I love just so easy to eat. Probably my favorite style of cuisine would probably be Asian food.
Asian.
Yeah.
Asians, nowadays they are getting very, more to the mainstream. They start to get that a fusion, as you said, the waffles and chicken. The kimchi now is getting more into the cuisine, the Irish cuisine. Yeah. Like, I think here in Ireland, we are in the right spot, right spot in the right moment, if it makes sense to you. Because 10 years ago, I would say 15, 20 years ago was totally different. Like, the scenario in Ireland was just growing. In that stage is when you went to UK, you went to work for Michelin, correct? Yeah, I
was over there. I did a stage. I was there for, I think, 9 weeks or 10 weeks in total. Yeah. It was like, so most of my career has been spent in mostly kind of classic kind of style places and working for chefs like that. Everywhere I've gone, I've always looked for that. Like, then my next move was always like something better, something bigger. I was never motivated by money. It was always kind of like, who's doing some really good food? What can I learn? What can I develop? So yeah, I did a stage over there. I was there for 9 or 10 weeks. It was just a fantastic experience.
And it was working with Michelin.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, it's the Fat Duck, 3 Michelin-star restaurant. Yeah. When I was there, I think it was a 15-course tasting menu on at the time. 42 chefs for a 44-seater restaurant. But it was like a military operation. It was so well organized. The food was absolutely stunning. The produce, like, there was a pigeon dish on at the time, and like the sauce took 10 days to make. You know, like, you got whole pigeons in and you minced them and roasted them off, and it was just, there was one small walk-in just full of pigeons that they'd hang ourselves for like 7 days or 9 days. I can't remember how long I was hung for, but just to make the sauce. You know, it was phenomenal. There was no expense spared. One of the strangest things I found about going there was he doesn't make his own bread. Like, you buy in bread from a bakery, you know?
Really?
Yeah. I couldn't believe that when I arrived. There was a delivery of bread one morning. I was like, is this for staff food or something? Like, what's this like, you know? And I was like, actually, there's a patisserie there. Like, obviously, you know, and there's a couple of desserts on the menu and stuff. But they're like, no, we buy in our bread. Like, I can't remember the name of the bakery now, but the bread was just...
At least it was decent bread, or...
it was amazing. It was
amazing.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was like, I think there was maybe 7 or 8 different types of bread delivered every day, like, you know, and no, there wouldn't have been that many. I can't remember now, but it was just absolutely stunning. Really, really good. But just an amazing operation, amazing to see it.
And then when you came back to Ireland, you went to work for Kevin Turton.
Yeah, another fantastic chef.
And how was that experience with Kevin? Because when we were there, he was with 2 stars.
No, he's 1 star.
1 star.
Yeah, he was 1 star when I was there. I was unbelievable as well.
It doesn't matter like how many stars. Like, when you go to a Michelin level,
it's absolutely, and he's a fantastic chef and a brilliant chef, brilliant guy. Like, you know, really, really was. Absolutely stunning restaurant. The food is unbelievable. It's kind of, I spent a bit of time there, and I realized probably at that level, I was like, I've less interest in spending my career at this level. I'm probably happiest at that kind of gastropub level. That's where I love that kind of bold, punchy flavors. slightly more rustic than fine dining. I love that kind of style of food. I love fine dining as well, don't get me wrong, and it's a fantastic experience, and
it's great to learn the taste, the level, the layers, where need to punch in each layer of the food. It's not only just here, there's the food.
Absolutely.
And exactly what you we were talking before we start the interview, like about the technique.
Yeah.
And that's something I say to everyone. It's not about what you do, it's about the technique you have.
Absolutely.
If you go to a carving and then the chef has a very good technique, you can do amazing carving that you never ever will have anywhere else.
Absolutely. And I think an awful lot of people focus on recipes and how do you make that. And and I say this to the guys in the kitchen all the time, learn the technique behind it, and it's endless what you can do then, and I think it's something that we try to focus on in the kitchens now. It's not showing the guys how to make a stock or how to make a white sauce. It's how you make stocks, or how you make a bechamel, or how you make a velouté, or how you make like, we don't really use an awful lot of bechamel or veloutés even at this stage now. I think it's in cooking in general, you don't really seem to use it an awful lot. Like, it's if you learn how to make those things and you learn the technique behind them, it's endless what you can do then. You know? Like, I've always found, like, and again, it's like cooking's kind of 90% a learned skill. You can teach somebody how to cook. The final 10%, it's a touch, it's a taste, it's a feel. Like, you have to kind of be aware of. I remember I worked for a chef called Nick Woolard, and I think all chefs have their who's your head chef, the one head chef that stands out, and it would be probably Nick for me. Like, I learned so much working with Nick. I worked with him in the box tree in Stepaside, and we won a bib gourmand when we were there, and this is back in 2010, 2011 maybe. At the time, I think there was only 4 or 5 other bib gourmands in Ireland. There was only 4 or 5 Michelin stars in Ireland. But the food was absolutely stunning. But it was such a massive influence on me, like, cooking wise. But it was just, he was so adamant about, like, showing people the technique about how you do things or else. But also, I remember one time we were making making a veal stock, and I was like, "Is this kind of ready?" And he's like, "Hang on," and he had to touch it with a spoon in the pot, before like, "Oh no, it needs a bit more time." Like, you had to feel it, like, and you can't teach that. It's like, you can't write that down in a book and say, "It has to feel like this when you're pouring stock off a spoon." It has to have this consistency, and it's a learning thing, but it's also you have to have that touch. You have to have that.
I think you touch a point there. It's all about the time you and the experience you have, and the knowledge. It's kind of combined all together. You remember with steaks, I used to cooking steaks. I get the steak, and just by eye, I can tell you the temperature you're cooking. You know yourself with your experience. But nowadays, I see a lot of people just putting the probe, like all that, sorry, it's just literally, it's dick waving. Just show, oh, look, I'm using the probe. But 90% of the time, they don't know the temperature because they're using the probe.
Yeah, you see, you're dealing as well, when you're dealing with a raw product, you're dealing with a natural product. So although you could buy your steaks in from your butcher, all at 8 ounce or 10 ounce or whatever, but they're not all have the exact same water content, fat content, and things like that. So you can't say, okay, cook it for 6. That's obviously a guideline to follow. Cook it for 3 minutes, cook it for 6 minutes. I have this all the time. I'm sure you do as well. You ask friends, they're asking you for recipes of different things. Like, how long do I cook this for? And it's like, cook it till it's ready. Cook it till it's done. And say, you go to a supermarket now and buy a chicken. You can get 2 chickens, 2 different weights, 2 different sizes.
Yes.
Different levels of fat, different levels. So it's like, it's not just a matter of one size fits all. Like, it's like you have to just experience it a little bit.
You need to have the feeling.
You do. You have to. And it's like I said, it's not something you can learn. I think it's something you have to develop. That's not. Maybe you have a rough idea as well. Like, how these things work and how they should work and whatever else. Like, but it's I think you just have to experience it.
Like you just mentioned, like 3 amazing chefs you work for. And what was the big difference between each? Like when you work for Heston, Kevin, and
Nick Woolard.
Nick. What's the difference between 3 of them? Like, what do you learn from each of them, and what stand out?
So I suppose over in the Fat Duck in Heston, Blumenthal's, you didn't even see Heston. Like, he was never there. It was obviously a huge empire he has, and a couple of restaurants and TV work and books and everything else. The chefs that were there were all fantastic as well. Working in an environment that big, like there was a prep house across the road. You had 3 different teams. You got one guy who was just in charge of doing sauces and stocks, and he would work different hours, and he could be starting at 4 o'clock in the morning and finishing at 11 a.m. and he'd be back in the next night at 8 o'clock. He just he came and kind of went as he was needed himself, kind of thing. He took care of all that. Then the prep house, there was about 20 chefs working over there. It was fantastic to see, but I mean, you're kind of like, I remember one of the jobs I used to do every morning, it's a nightmare, was like literally take a segment of grapefruit and literally take the strands of grapefruit off.
Whoa.
You know, onto a piece of tissue, like, you know, and then it was served on one of the fish dishes. And it would take 4 of us like an hour of just like peeling the grapefruit out, taking the segments out, and then taking each segment apart, like, you know, and it's the level of detail that I went to.
Yes.
But it was a restaurant it was a 44-seater restaurant. It was closed Sunday and Monday. You did 44 for lunch, 44 for dinner, 5 days a week. You know, the only ever time that changed was you do 43 maybe, because the last table of 4 would be sold for 3 people instead of 4 people, kind of thing. It was booked out 3 months in advance. You know, it was just such a high level of cooking. I think when I was there at the time, there was only 80 or 90 3-star restaurants in the world. You know, like it was, you know, so at that level, it's next level kind of thing. You know, I remember one of the stories about the guys saying when they got that level of 3-star, that they'd get a phone call saying, "Where's the nearest place we can land our helicopter? You know, we're coming for dinner next week." You know?
Yeah.
It's just a different environment, and it's somewhat surreal, and but it's super organized. You have to be when you're doing that level of that many courses. And the chef there at the time, Johnny, he's an American guy. He was brilliant, like, but the board was literally the size of a wall with all the dockets on it, and because obviously people going for different courses, different things. But it was actually, the service side of it was actually very easy, because if you were doing the fish side or you were doing the foie gras dish, let's say, you just knew you had 44 of them ready for lunch and 44 ready for dinner, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, obviously, you'd get allergens, or you get someone who had a vegetarian version, but there was a vegetarian version of everything available.
Yeah.
So if you're a vegetarian, you could have the same foie gras dish and it would just be done with something else. I can't remember what the vegetarian version was for it. So for service, it was actually so simple. There was never any, you knew exactly what you're doing. At the start of the week, you knew, okay, you've got 5 days, 44 for lunch, 44 for dinner, you know, or whatever it is. It's booked out 3 months in advance. So you know in advance as well, there's 4 vegetarians coming tonight. And
you have so many chefs, passionate chefs lining up to get in a place like that. Yeah. Getting is extremely hard.
Yeah, and it is, and it's. I mean, like at that level again, I can't even remember what the salary was. It was dreadful anyway. For nothing, but you went there for the experience. You went there to kind of see something that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. You know, that was kind of one level, and that was obviously one end of the scale. Like it doesn't kind of get much better than that kind of thing. Like not much better, but much higher level, and the attention to detail, which is.
And when you went to Kevin, like, was a different world, because here the labor compared in the UK, the pool is way smaller.
There was 5 chefs working with Kevin. It was a different environment. There was no commis chefs. There was no it was just chef de parties and a head chef. Alan was the head chef there at the time. Kevin used to work the pastry most of the time when I was there. You'd always have 1 or 2 guys in a stage as well, or working experience, whatever else. Yeah. But fantastic environment. Him and his wife, I can't think of her name now, but brilliant people to work for. Just the food was absolutely stunning as well. Like, Kevin is a real, like, he probably doesn't get the props he's due, you know.
Yeah.
Outside of the culinary world in Ireland, like, all chefs know how good he is and how brilliant he was and everything. But it's absolutely fantastic. The food is just so good, and he has a real love for Irish producers, and just the food is just stunning. Like, you know, it's just really, really next level as well. Like, it was probably ahead of his time as well. How back then, like, you know, but really, really good. Like, I think he's doing very well for himself now as well. Nick, like I say, Nick was probably if someone said to me now, head chef, like, Nick is the one that kind of really springs to mind. I've had some fantastic, I worked for some fantastic head chefs over the years, and but he's the one that kind of springs to mind most. Probably the one I learned the most from. The box tree and step aside, Eamon O'Reilly owned it at the time. And it was just everything was made from scratch. Like, it was just absolutely stunning. And the volume we were doing for such high level of food, like, on a Saturday night we do 200 people in the restaurant, and then there's a bar attached to it as well, and we do another 150 in the bar, and it was just rocking constantly. Like, I mean, I think when Eamon opened initially, he thought it was going to be this quaint little restaurant in Stepaside Village, and you would do 40 people on a Friday night kind of thing, and it just exploded. Like, it was super successful. But the food is just absolutely stunning. The attention to detail. Nick would, like, he was so hands-on. He was there 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night, you know. I've always been like that as well. I've always been the first to arrive in, like, and I think after 3 or 4 days I was there, every morning I was standing there waiting for him to arrive. And after 3 days, he gave me a key. I was like, just put yourself in from now on. Like, and I was like, oh, thanks. And that became a blessing and a burden kind of thing, because then it's kind of like, if I arrived at 9 o'clock by everyone else, they'd be like, you're late. I'm like, well, my shift starts at 9. Like, you should be here at 8. You're always here at 8. And he give me a bulletin for being late. I'm like, I'm arriving at 8:45. Like, I'm 45 minutes early. He'd be like, no, you're 45 minutes late. Like, you know, like, right. That just kind of became the dynamic. Yeah. And we had a fantastic relationship, and still do. I still talk to him regularly, you know. But the food, he had worked in a couple of Michelin star restaurants over in London and Ireland. He was the head chef at Peacock Alley.
Oh, nice.
And where else did he work over here? I can't remember now offhand. But just stunning. Like, the food he just did was just so good. It was just proper. It was that like proper love of food that he had. Like, that was just, the food he used to produce was just stunning, absolutely stunning. And it was, you know, he probably wasn't the best chef at like costing up something, or kind of, he would just produce this an incredible dish. Like, and what I think of the food we used to do now, but like, there's no costing done on it. It was just like, this went with this, or, you know, this, you know, this Dover sole with like a beautiful kind of lemon sauce, or, you know, there was never any costings done. And now, like, the restaurant was super successful as well financially, like, you know, but it was just, I think if you do good food, no matter what, you get a following. Like, you know, you get,
oh yeah, definitely,
yeah, people travel. If you're doing a good produce and you're doing good, you have good service and good food over else, like, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, kind of thing. Like, there's get people there, like, you know.
I see, like, nowadays in Ireland, the things start to shift a little. The labor shortage, and as well, like, you need to be a Swiss knife. That's the way I see it as a chef. You need to know a little bit of everything: the technique, the cooking, the numbers, everything. And you went from the fine dine to open your own business, correct?
Yeah.
So how was that transition? What the craving you had to get from the fine dine and say, you know what, I would do it that way? Because, like, yeah, explain a little bit about that.
I suppose,
please.
I'd worked in a couple of Michelin star places, and then I went to the Box Tree. The Box Tree, it wasn't really fine dining. It was kind of kind of fine dining food at a kind of more relaxed environment. Mm-hmm. And I really liked that. I really liked that kind of, it wasn't stuffy tablecloths, kind of a waiter in a waistcoat and bow tie. Don't get me wrong, that's fantastic as well, and there's a place for that. But I really liked just, it was just an element of kind of big, bold flavours. It wasn't as refined as kind of another fine dining restaurants, but it was just, the food was just stunning. Like, the reviews we got, like all the critics went, like I said, we won a Book Roman, I think, in the first 9 months that we were there. It was just stunning, like, you know, it was just so good, like. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that kind of bold kind of flavours, that very simple cooking, but fantastic produce, just done very well. I always kind of wanted to work for myself. And my best friend, Dara, he's a barman, and same thing. He kind of had a similar enough kind of career path that I had, except in the bar industry. So, like, he knew an awful lot about whiskies and craft beer and cocktails, and he worked in some fantastic places as well. He was the manager of Against the Grain at the time. And we always kind of said we'd look to do something together. And we were looking at a few different pubs at the time. And, you know, we ended up taking a stall in the Epicurean Food Hall. It was on Liffey Street. I think it's a deal or something now. It's been converted. But when the Epicurean Food Hall opened initially, it was full of fantastic restaurants and vendors. And it was very busy, and it was a great place. And the recession came along, and a few of those guys pulled out. And then there was a couple of buffets in there, all you can eat. And I think the kind of overall, the place kind of went downhill a little bit maybe, and Dara knew the family owned it, and they were kind of saying they wanted to improve it and want to put something, like, improve the whole profile of the place across the board, and maybe get rid of the buffets and enhance it a little bit. And so, yeah, we got a unit there, and we were doing simple cooked food dinners, kind of like a nice pork chop with lentils and like simple kind of maybe French bistro style food.
Yes.
Which I love. I love that kind of style of cooking. I love that. But we realised quite quickly that it wasn't the right place for it. You know, it was just after a couple of weeks we realised there's not a clientele here for it. Maybe it's location. It was more of a lunchtime place as well, like where we had kind of hoped we'd be open till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but after 6 there was nothing in the area. So we kind of turned on a bit of dime then, and we started doing American diner style sandwiches. And that's where we started doing like Pittsburgh sandwiches. We slow roasted pork shoulder off for 16 hours. We'd make our own barbecue sauce, bread, chips, pulled pork, coleslaw. You know, it's just a big kind of a knife and fork sandwich. We did a brisket sandwich, same thing. Like we slow cooked the brisket, slices, crispy onions on top, gravy, po' boy sandwiches, Cajun Creole, like American style kind of sandwiches that you'd have to sit down with a knife and fork and eat. And it was fantastic, you know, we had a great time there. It was completely different to what we had set out to kind of do initially. But the kind of market somewhat dictates what you can do as well sometimes, you know.
Sorry to interrupt you, but having your own business, what was the main challenge for you comparing, like, coming from a restaurant background, literally, as you said, you don't, when you cook, you don't mind much, you know, like about the cost, let's say. Yeah. You know, it's not on you, but in the moment that it comes to you and you see you use every single product you have, that's where the technique come in. You do not waste everything. How was that change for you? Did you see the different perspective?
I suppose I always used to treat restaurants I used to work in like that anyway, and even now I still do. Like, I kind of, like, I treat them as if I would treat my own place. I kind of, like, we don't waste anything. I like, you know, if you're there, even just as a chef, you should be kind of giving your all in that regard. Like, you know, the biggest changes were obviously all the admin stuff, the extra stuff that you don't see, and like you always hear this yourself as well when you're younger. Your chefs kind of, they talk about executive chefs or owners kind of like, what does your man do? Like, he's only here 10 hours a week or whatever else. Like, it's like there's a huge amount going on in the background that you're not aware of. Like, the product is only 25% of it. Like, you know, like,
yeah.
And obviously as you go up the train as well, from a commis chef to a head chef or an executive chef, like, you end up doing less cooking, but there's just so much more going on that you're not aware of. Like, you know, we've all had those jobs over the years, especially when we were younger, of kind of saying like, yeah, the owner comes in and he's here for 5 hours and he's gone, kind of thing. Jesus, like, what a life he has, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's like, no, there's so much more going on in the background that you're unaware of. Like, the admin side of things is definitely, and I think to do business in Ireland, there's an awful lot of red tapes, an awful lot of things that get in your way, which is, I don't understand that. I think they should be encouraging people more than anything. But like, yeah, just an awful lot of things in that regard that's kind of getting your way to try be successful, like, you know. But that was difficult. It's like, because where I had kind of got to in my career with else was just the love of food. But I mean, the love of food and opening a restaurant or opening a food truck or a pub or anything else are two very different things. Like, you know, you need a different head on your shoulders as such, you know, to be successful running a business. Like, you know, I mean, I think, you know, a well executed plan is more important than doing good food or serving good drink overall, you know.
And after you spend so many years, like, with your own business, you move back to restaurants. Why that transition? Like, is the lifestyle with the, like, being your own boss, always we believe like, oh, I'm gonna have more time for my family, I'll have more time for this. Yeah, but actually, it's not true.
No, not at all. I mean, I think people think as well, when you're your own boss as such, you're kind of like, you don't answer to anybody, or, you know, you're so much more answerable to so many more people, like, you know, because you've got so much kind of going on. And you're dealing with the government, and you're dealing with like bills and insurance, and obviously you're responsible for all your staff and making sure they get paid and the wages, and like, it's never ending, like, in that regard. Whereas if you work for somebody, you're answerable to one person, your manager or the owner or the boss or whatever else kind of thing. And yeah, look, we opened it was fantastic. The Ugly Duck thing, it did really well, and we had a fantastic following and fantastic customers. And myself and Dara then had an opportunity to open the Hill Pub in Ranelagh. And we wanted to kind of go craft beer style and kind of really good food. And it was again, like, we would have 3 brilliant weeks and then 1 bad week, and it would just set us back 8 weeks. And we went in and we were just under finance from the start. I mean, initially when we went in, we had a budget put together and we were going to renovate. We put a kitchen into the place, we renovated it. And the idea being that when we opened up, I think we said it would have nearly 3 months worth of kind of costs ready to go if we don't take in a single penny kind of thing. And the day we opened, I think we had 500 quid in our account.
That's all good.
Yeah, like, we had all these plans worked out, like, you know, and then just we were putting a new floor in, and then all of a sudden the pipe needs to be replaced, and then a new wall, and it was never ending in that regard, you know. But yeah, so that kind of, we were just always in the back foot then, like, from day one. Like, we had a fantastic product, and we had fantastic customers, we had a fantastic landlord, but just under finance from day one, and we just couldn't get ahead of ourselves, you know, in that regard. We couldn't break the mold, and like I say, we'd have 4 or 5 fantastic weeks and then 1 terrible week, and we'll just knock it right back again, and we just couldn't get any momentum going. So yeah, when the lease was up, then we kind of just decided to go our separate ways, and I went to work in Brickyard in Dundrum.
Yeah.
Fantastic place, does stunning food. The 2 lads there, Erwin and Simon, 2 great guys. Real ethos for doing really good food, which I really enjoyed, and it was a fantastic environment for me to go back in. After working for myself for a couple of years, I was somewhat disillusioned with kind of cooking, because you're just constantly looking at every kind of angle, every penny, and everything you're looking at, to be able to go back in and just cook in a really good kitchen, just doing really good food. It was great for me personally, like, you know. To
now, what's the pros and cons for like to have your own business and to work for somebody else?
Yeah, look, I think eventually I'll do something again myself. You know, I think I'd like to have that. There are elements of freedom that you get with it, but there are also an awful lot of restraints working for yourself. Like, it's like I said, I think an awful lot of people see a busy pub somewhere or a busy restaurant somewhere and go, "Sure, this is easy. People are just lined up," and you know, but they don't see Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning when the place is empty and you've got a lot of bills to pay and rates and rent.
Yeah, yeah.
And people don't see that sort of a thing. People go on a Friday night or a Saturday night and the place is around and they think, wow, this place must be printing money kind of thing. It's like, well, it's not the case. Like, it's not like this 7 days a week, like, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a multitude of things. I would say to anybody who's interested in doing their own thing to give it a crack, you know. Just be careful, set yourself up, have a good think about it. I've always looked at another venture now, like, and I needed 100 grand to open it. I'd make sure I had access to 150 grand, though, you know. It's money gets eaten up in places that you wouldn't think of.
Oh, yeah.
You get an electricity bill. Your electricity bills are 500 quid a month, and then you get an electricity bill for 2.5 grand. You're like, the hell? What happened there? Like, you know, out of nowhere, and it kind of just can knock you back. So it's like,
yeah.
You know, but they're fantastic pros and cons about sides of it. I don't think everyone's cut out for it. I think an awful lot of people think it'll be easy. I'll just do this, this, and this, you know. But when the actual harsh reality of it comes in, it's very different, you know. But very enjoyable experience, and you learn a huge amount, you know. Like, I would say to anybody as well, if you are thinking about doing your own thing and you're young, try it, you know, give it a crack, you know. And nobody's ever going to laugh at you or kind of make fun of you or whatever else for having a crack at it kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Trying, like, you know, and I failed that as well. And we failed at what we tried, you know, but everybody was very encouraging. Everyone was very kind of, everyone was great about it. Like, you know, you obviously get one or two people kind of say something smart or whatever else, like, but anybody who's done it themselves or whatever else knows how difficult it is are always very, well, fair play to you, tried, and, you know, you gave it a crack, it didn't work out, so best of luck to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, the devil is in the detail.
Absolutely.
These small details, like, not details, but I would say small print that people do not say to have your own business. You know, like they as you said, like electricity bills or anything, like, the way I see any business is like that. Okay, how many hours there's in a day? 24 hours. Okay, how many hours we are open? 10 hours. Yeah. Okay, how many hours we actually make profit?
Yeah.
Hour and a half, 2.
Yeah.
And then when you put in that perspective, that 2 hours need to pay for 24 hours.
Absolutely.
And it's not all 24 hours not made equal, like in a week. Example, I give always when somebody says something to me, I said, go to the delivery between Monday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday, okay, you'll be busier, but like if you see Monday to Thursday, they're losing money.
Yeah.
Close the door, just open Friday to Sunday. Yeah. You know, like now in the summertime, it's beautiful. Everyone will be there, tourists, etc. Go in the winter time there, you feel sorry for those guys.
Absolutely, and I just think I think you need to just be well prepared for that as well. Like, you know, like I say, if a new restaurant opens, everyone wants to go on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Saturday night, 8 o'clock. You know, it's prime real estate kind of time to book a restaurant, you know, but that restaurant is still the same place with the same costs and bills and the same rates and rents and insurance and everything else on Monday at 1 o'clock kind of thing, you know, when the place is empty, you know. So it's I think overall, like I say, I think the Irish government and revenue make it difficult to do business in Ireland.
Especially for the small.
Yeah, it's definitely the smaller guys, definitely, like, you know. Because a couple of bad weeks, I can kind of really put you under massive pressure.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's a fantastic. There's lots of opportunities out there as well, like, you know. And I think what you're saying earlier on as well, the food trends in general in Ireland and the hospitality trends in Ireland are kind of changing and constantly developing, and I think constantly getting better as well. Like.
And tell me, nowadays you work in a big group as a group executive chef.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the stress, your routine, how is being executive chef today to the time actually we start on, you know, in the beginning 2000s was totally different kind of job, and nowadays is way more dynamic. I would say in my own words, but tell me in your words, how is being to be an executive chef in a group? Yeah,
so I'm the executive chef for the Murray Pub Group now. So the Murray Pub Group has Murray's on O'Connell Street. That's the kind of the HQ, the main operation. They also own, in that complex there, the living room, Fibber McGee's, Thomas Clark. It's all kind of one complex. There's Fibber McGee's on Parnell Street. the living room on Colbrew Street, and then Maria's on Collins Street, and they all back out into one area.
Yeah.
The group then as well, they've got the Camden on Camden Street, and Jimmy Roberts again is kind of they're two separate venues. But from the kitchen point of view, it's just one kitchen that serves both venues. There's the Bleeding Horse on Camden Street as well. There's the Lundy Foots in Temple Bar, and there's the Hill Pub in Ranelagh. It's a fantastic group. Again, they're very hardworking, honest, decent people, and they've done very well for themselves through hard work and grit. Like, Nolan and Marie are the matriarch and the patriarch of the family. They're both, I'd say, semi-retired now. They're still involved and still have their hand on the pulse to a certain degree. But Ross and his business partner Keith now are the main guys. They run the show. And just again, it's very refreshing to be working for such just decent people. Very hardworking, very encouraging. Like, if you go to them with an idea or a concept, they're very, give it a try, give it a crack. Sure, look, if it works, it works. Best of luck. And not foolish at all. They're very, very shrewd, like, but it's they're always very willing to try something new or try something different, which is fantastic. And they've got a great setup as well in the whole group. I think the last couple of years they've really kind of tried to develop the company overall. Like, there's a group GM, Shane, who's my kind of direct boss, and again, he's brilliant. It's fantastic to work with such a high level of management team. Like, they've got the accounts, they've got HR, and it all comes together. There's a marketing team there, there's a group sales person, like a group sales manager. So it's great to be able to utilize the group as well, the power that, like, if I wanted to run, an event or a promotion or something like that, like, we've got a marketing team there that can kind of put it on social media and give it a push. We've got a sales team that can reach out to some people as contacts to kind of get people in. So overall, it's a fantastic, I'm very happy there. It's a fantastic job, and, I thoroughly enjoy it. Very, very different to being a head chef as well. Like, I think an awful lot of people think an executive chef is just a step up from being a head chef. Yeah. But it's a completely different role. Yeah. It's a completely different role. You're just, look, so when I went to work for the Murray Pub Group initially, I went as the head chef of the Camden. Yeah. And I was there for a year, and they kind of spoke to me briefly about kind of taking over the whole group. And I was, well, look, let's see what we'll do in the Camden first and see how it goes. And I want to see how they'd react to the type of, like, because we do everything from scratch in the kitchens. We make all our own stuff, like our burger. We make our own tomato and chili relish. We make our own pickles. We don't, like, even everything we do, we just try to enhance it a little bit. Like, we don't use brioche, we use potato buns rather than brioche buns.
Oh, nice.
So it's just
mini house.
No, we don't make them in house now. To volume wise, but we use Cochran's potato buns, like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're very good. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic product. We use Dublin cheddar cheese. So everything we do, we just try and enhance it that little bit more than just your standard burger, your standard burger bun, your standard cheese.
Yeah.
And I think overall people can tell in the product, and even if you're not aware of it, from a culinary point of view, that you're aware when you're eating something that's really good.
Difference.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the curry we make we have on the Camden, same thing. Like, we don't buy in any paste. We make our own paste. And we make our own mango chutney, and so it comes with a flatbread. We make our own flatbread. So all those things, it tells in the when people, and even like I say, I think an awful lot of people come in sometimes and they can't tell consciously that, well, this is a really good curry, but they constantly come back. The repeat business is fantastic, like, and the feedback on the food is fantastic. But an awful lot of work goes into it behind the scenes, like.
And, like, what is the stressful part of being an executive chef in your daily routine? What's the stressful part?
It's a combination of things, I suppose. Like, I myself as well thought that an executive chef initially was just a kind of step up from being a head chef as such, but it's, like I said, it's a very different role. And when they offered me this position, I reached out to a couple of people that I knew who were executive chefs.
Yeah.
And they all said the same thing, like, it's a completely different role. It's not just, you're not just above a head chef and that's it kind of thing. Like, whereas, even when you go from, like, a sous chef to a head chef, or even a senior chef de partie to a sous chef kind of thing, generally speaking, it's just a step up, but it's a completely different role, a completely different environment you're dealing with. Like, my routine now is completely different to what it was. Like, Monday's one of my busiest days of the week now, whereas I used to be off Mondays, nearly all my career I was always off on a Monday. Like, Sunday and Monday were always my days off, like, whereas now Monday, it's up early into the office, getting the wages done, getting any meetings, any interviews, anything like that. It's always just scheduled for a Monday, so if I have a rep come to see me, I'll just say, come see me Monday between 10 and 12, or same thing with interviews, same thing with talking to people, talking to all the head chefs, looking at the accounts from the week previous. Every Monday we have a management meeting, in Murray's with all the senior management to get together, and we just discuss, okay, what happened last week, any incidents, any reports, look at the figures, what's happening this week, what's coming next kind of thing, is there anything we need to be aware of, and so forth. And then sit down Monday afternoon and just send out emails to all the head chefs. This is what we did this last week. This is what's coming up this week. So there's a lot of that involved in an executive chef role. And you're constantly talking to something that I find difficult with. Is I'm used to going into a kitchen and talking to everyone, talking to the kitchen porter, talking to commis chefs and so forth. Whereas an executive chef role now, you can't have that because I'm dealing with 4 different kitchens. I'm feeding 4 different head chefs. I can't go into all those places and talk to everyone across the board. So you have to just talk to the general manager of the group or of the pub or the venue, and the head chef and the sous chef kind of thing, to kind of get your point across, or okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So stress-wise, staffing the venues is obviously one. We're lucky enough in the sense so we all our venues are fully staffed, but having a bit more seniority is what we kind of struggle with. Having a bit more kind of people with a bit more experience, and it's just very difficult to get anyone at the minute. We put a couple of ads up looking for a head chef or a sous chef. You just don't get anyone in that's at that level. You get somebody with 2 years experience looking for a head chef role, and you're like, and I say to people all the time, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but you just don't have the experience, and my ethos has always been about, especially when I'm in a kitchen environment as a head chef, I don't really care as much about somebody's experience as who's doing the job, because I've worked with people before with 6 months experience and are absolutely smashing it out and they're doing an amazing job, and you can train somebody who wants to learn and wants to develop. But I've also worked with people with 10 years experience who are just they just don't care, they don't give a shit, and they're just there for the bare minimum kind of thing. So it's not just about experience either, but to run a kitchen, successfully and well, right across the whole board, you need experience under your belt, So that's what we're struggling with now a bit. Like I said, we're very lucky, and all the venues are in good hands at the minute, and we've got a really good team of chefs around us. But we could do 1 or 2 more senior chefs that would kind of just help. And the guys at the minute, all the head chefs and the sous chefs and stuff, they're all kind of to the ball at the minute. They're all if I had 1 or 2 more senior guys, that could just give them a little bit of respite to be able to just take that next step again,
Yeah, that would be great. Everyone's looking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, summertime especially. And what do you think, what's next food trend coming up to Ireland?
I've been saying this probably for 2 years now. I think the roast dinner, I think the Sunday lunch, I think home cooked food, simple cooked well food is coming up next. I think that's going to be the next big thing. I think if 30 years ago, the majority of people over the age of 30 could have produced a fully cooked Sunday roast and probably cooked an awful lot at home and knew how to cook simple food and more complicated, whatever, right across the board. Was I think an awful lot of people over the age of 30 now couldn't cook a Sunday roast either, and just don't cook. And I think maybe it's a combination of things of just food being made much more easily accessible to people. Obviously, it's a different culture now. If I was going out to eat now, even my own grandmother would be coming, you're going out again? It's out last month, and it's that generation was you went down for a special occasion.
Yes.
And that was it kind of thing. Whereas I think now people go out a lot more for the experience. It's not just going out to eat because you're hungry and it's a food, it's going out for an experience, and that's what I go, I love going out. I love going out to restaurants. I love going out to fancy restaurants. I love going to food trucks. I love everything in between. I love getting a really good toasted ham and cheese sandwich. I love getting a fantastic cooked piece of fish, and everything in between, so I think that trend of just good food done well, it's always been there, don't get me wrong, but I think that Host and Renna there, I think they do it very well.
Yeah.
There's nothing overly complicated. It's just good produce, just cooked very well, simple, easy to eat, and I love that style of eating as well, that kind of family style of sharing. A plate's put in the middle of the table and everyone kind of eats off it, and I really enjoy that as well.
And what's next for your page?
Probably more the same what I do at the minute. I don't really. Someone said to me there recently about oh, you're doing some reviews. I'm it's not really reviews that I do as such. It's just me going out and enjoying something. It's not. I don't put a huge amount. I don't have a social media plan or anything like that. I don't have an idea of exactly where things are going to go in that regard. I don't have it. I don't have any forethought in that. I just see somewhere I like and I go, let's try that. I really enjoy doing the visits to different places and making those kind of TikTok videos of it's like, it's just a bit of crack though for me. Like, you know, it's that online social media presence, or that online presence in general, I think from my point of view, is just more of an opportunity to reach other like-minded people, to my future as well, like, you know, about kind of what's out there. I think as chefs kind of progress as well, like your online presence will always become like your CV.
Oh yeah,
you know, people go and look at it now. Anywhere I go now, and I think the majority of people are the same, that if you hear of a new place or see a new place, you go and you look at Instagram straight away, you see what they're like on Instagram, or, you know, because it gives you an idea of exactly what they're doing, like, you know. So if somebody recommended a new restaurant to me now, the first thing I do is look it on Instagram and say, what's it like, look at a few of their dishes on Instagram. And then it's like, okay, let's go, or no, that's not for me, kind of thing, like, you know. Even TripAdvisor or Google reviews and stuff like that, like, you know, they're great that they're there, kind of thing, and they give you an idea, kind of thing. But it's
in my opinion, what I like from chefs' reviews like yourself, compared with the, no offense to any other food reviews, we know the people in the trade. I remember when I came to Ireland, I used to work with 18 Chinese, and anytime we used to go out to eat together, well, it's Chinese food, you know, like, they like their food. And you used to go to Park Street. Yeah. And you have like dozens of restaurants there. Yeah. And they used to come and say, we're not going here, we're not going there, we go there because that chef is good, he's clean, And that's the part I normally like to see reviews from actually chefs, because we know who is there. Yeah. You know, like, you can't throw a rock without he's somebody you know already. Yeah. You know, and then like straight away, like, what I like to see your reviews or the places you go is your perspective is different than a foodie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the part I look and said, okay, if a chef is telling me that is done perfectly, that's where I go. You know, that is a good example. Like, I never send my, let's say, I never tell the chef if the food is good. Yeah. When I go to a restaurant, it just happened 3 times. And those 3 times, I have to say, was like something I ate. You could see the way it was produced, the way they were made, and like, and none of them was Michelin star. Yeah, Michelin star is a different level. Yeah, but when you go to an ordinary restaurant and the guy has attention to detail, when you get your baby carrot all clean up on top, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you look at that. Even he had the time and the patience to look at that. Yeah. It's a different ball game. And it's an awful lot of people, I think, like I said, they don't pick up on those things. And rightly so. How would they even know, like, the majority of people? But I think you pick up on those things subconsciously. Right. You might not be aware of them. I think you're aware of them on a subconscious level. You're saying, well, this is exceptional. Like, yeah, we're the same. A lot of time, the lads will finish work and we'll go somewhere on Parnell Street for something to eat. Yeah. We'll go for dumplings or a bowl of soup or something, like, or a bowl of noodles. When you're in the industry, obviously, you're always way ahead of the curve and knowing about these places. Yeah. You know, that you go to them before anyone else knows about them or before they become really popular. I've got a few places before where I've gone and haven't enjoyed it. And, like, someone said to me there a while ago, it's like, all the places you go to are always great. Like, where's the kind of bad reviews? Like, I just don't put them up. I just don't do it, you know, like, and it's hard enough, you know, in this industry to work as they're having someone coming in and kind of give you, you know, I've gone to a couple of places before where you're like, this wasn't great, but it's probably just a timing. It's probably just an off day. Yeah. You know, like, I think if I came back here again, it would probably be better, you know, so, and obviously, again, people, now, at the same time, you can have the argument kind of saying, well, if they're open for business, they're open for business, you know. Oh, yes. You know, but you know how difficult it is in this industry, and it has been for years. I mean, people put it down to being the pandemic and COVID, but, like, this industry was under short-staffed 10 years ago. You know? Oh, yes. It wasn't just, you know, obviously, COVID didn't help, and I mean, we had an awful lot of really good chefs to COVID as well, like, you know, and people just kind of got disillusioned with the industry and just thought, oh, this is not for me anymore. And yeah, the amount of chefs I know, and 3 are the same now, they're like working as reps for food places or delivering trucks or all sorts of things, you know. Yes. Which is a bit of a shock to the system. It's like, you're saying, this guy was exceptional, you know. This guy was brilliant, he was super talented, and now he's doing deliveries. Like, but he's super happy, he's working Monday to Friday, he's finished at 5 o'clock and he's has the weekends off, he's spent time with his kids and his family, kind of thing. But it's kind of, sometimes you kind of feel like, what a waste of such knowledge and talent, and, you know, but you get it as well. You have to strike a work-life balance, you know, that works for you. Like, but yeah, as a chef, as a general rule, like, you hear about these places, you know about these places before anyone else. And again, I mean, you can walk into any kitchen now
And if you don't know a chef there, you'll know someone who knows them kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a small industry, like, you know.
And I have to say, like, it's similar to my reviews. I go to the places, 99% of the time, I get something is decent or up.
Yeah.
And people complain and say, well, why you're not doing reviews from bad places? And like, will I go to a place that I know is not good? No, I will not waste my money to go and eat in a place and the food is dreadful.
Yeah.
I would not complain. The review from this coming up, there's a review coming up, and we went as a group for a dinner, and they picked the place.
Where is it?
Yeah. Move me up.
Okay, tell me off the cover.
Yes. And I swear to God, like, will be my first bad review.
Really, yeah.
Not really bad, but like close. I do not give notes anymore.
Yeah.
I just put like hells yes is very good.
Yeah.
Yummy if it's good. Hit the spot is something like okay, no problem. If you're hungry, if it's something like avoid.
Yeah.
And if you're starving, it would be really bad.
Yeah.
Basically, it's around that area.
Yeah.
So I look and say, oh my God. And like at the beginning, I'm very critical when I go to restaurants. I hold myself. I was in a group. I didn't want to make a show. You know, normally I would do it. If it was just me and my wife, I would actually complain.
Yeah.
And I just, okay, Ricardo, put the chef in your back pocket and just hold on. And I was sitting there, and then suddenly somebody across the table, Jesus Christ, look at the size of that portion. I'm paying 20 euros for 100 grams of pasta. And the other one, oh, look at my whatever it was, like scampi or something, just came like three pieces of fish. And I said, okay, I can say, what the fuck was that? You know, but like I try to be a little bit nice in the video. I would try.
I always find it, like, to be honest with you, if I go somewhere to eat and I get something that's not right, like, generally unless it's bad, you know, like, unless it's bad, like, if I ordered a steak medium rare and it came out medium or medium well, like, I'd just eat it. Like, I wouldn't care, like, you know, like, it's like, you know, and especially if you're in a place that you know it's good, and like I said, an off dish for a thing, you're like, it doesn't matter, like, you know, that shouldn't probably be the case, like, but it's like, I know how difficult it is in the kitchen. I know how hard it is sometimes. You're under pressure, you're understaffed, you know, you're waiting for the delivery to come in. All these different things that can just cause issues and problems back at house, like, and I've had a few times in the last probably 10 years, I've had one or two friends who are interested in being chefs come in and work a couple of days, like, and they're just so blown away by how different that actually is, that they think, oh, you do this, you do that. Like, I remember one time we were making a soup, and I was showing the guy how to make it, like, and he's like, what's all this soup for, like? And I was like, for today, like, you know. He's like, do you not make it each one to order, like? And he's like, no, we don't. We make it in the morning, it's cooled down, and we heat it up then to order.
Yeah.
And he was like, are you serious? I can't believe that kind of thing. I was like, do you think every time you order a bowl of soup in a restaurant that they make it there and then and blend it and blitz it, and, you know? He's like, yeah. I was like, no. Not at all, you know. And he just couldn't believe it, like, you know. He's just like, but you're just reheating things then. I was like, well, yeah, but like, if you go to a Michelin star restaurant, they make the soup that morning. Like, this is just standard practice. And even we were making mashed potato, like, it's just like, I can't believe this is all made in advance and then heated it. It's like, we reheat it in a pan, add butter, seed it up, pull it onto the plate, you know. And he's just like, he couldn't believe it. Like, he just thought, sure, I just do all this stuff at home myself. And I was like, it's not the same, you know, like, but it's always so interesting to get somebody that's the perspective when they come into the place, because obviously you're just so aware this is how you do things, this is how you prep things, this is how you get things ready. But somebody who's never been in a restaurant before or a kitchen before, they come in and they're always kind of blown away by these things. It's like, how did you think these things work? Like, you know, it's like, and as well, I remember saying to him at the time, we had a handmade pasta dish on, and it was braised beef, and I can't remember what else was in it, kind of thing. I was like, the beef took 12 hours to braise. Like, we braised the beef yesterday. Yeah, it cools down overnight. It's shredded the next day. We make the pasta, like, made the pasta dough yesterday as well, and then we put all these things together and we hold them, and then we cook the pasta, order then at the end, kind of thing. But did you think that was all literally made to order? You think we're making tortellini to order in the restaurant there? It doesn't work like that, like, you know. It's always so interesting to get people's perspective of that, you know. Like, oh, look, I'd probably be the same if I went into a different environment. Like, what the hell? I thought this would all be done, you know.
People do not see the different perspective, I would say. Derek, was lovely to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And big thank you for our sponsor today. Today's sponsor is FoodKast. Do you want to promote your brand or product in an effective way, direct to our public? Check our website, social media, and all products and services we provide. Contact us for more information. This is FoodKast, where you promote your brand and more. Derek, how people can reach out to you?
I'm on TikTok, Chef Derek Marsden, and Instagram. I can't think about what.
You can put it here as well.
You'll see it there.
Yeah, we're gonna have all here.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. Yeah, I'm always looking for things to do, and like I say, I just love this whole industry overall. Like, I love the aspect of it. I love every aspect of it, from fine dining to food trucks. And yeah, this will kind of do more of that as the kind of summer goes on. And I also, just another thing actually I meant to say to you earlier on, like, I use the videos I do as somewhat of a journal as such. Like, you know, like I sent a couple of those videos. I've got an email address set up for both my kids, so I set them both up when they were born. And a couple of those videos that I've done, I've saved an email to the kids that they'll have, and I'll give them access to the email when they're 18 or 20 or whatever else kind of thing. So there's a few videos there that they'll see. So rather than sending I was sending photos and write them emails on their birthdays and stuff like that as well. But they'll have a few videos of us as well.
That's right.
Yeah, something cool to do when they're older to look back on. Like, you
know. We have a lot of content.
Home videos, yeah. Different versions of a home video. Yeah.
That's great. And thank you very much. Thank you very much to watch or listen to FoodKast. Don't forget to smash that like, follow, and share button. This is FoodKast, where you watch your videos or listen to your podcasts and more.